Greetings, my friends. Let's take a look at last week's news in World Urban Railways. The week was quite full of events, if I do say so myself, with three different pieces of news, three different Washingtons, and once again, a monorail. We'll start with a story that might be upsetting to many. However, for me, it was a lot more hopeful than I thought at first. As of the day before yesterday, the 31st of March, DC streetcar in Washington D.C. is no longer operational. For 10 years, the DC streetcar was a surface tram service on a 3.3-kilometer line between Washington Union Station and Oklahoma Avenue. The service has seen consistently low ridership and frankly poorly served the public while running mostly in mixed traffic and also in side lanes for a big stretch of the alignment, which is like the worst way to build trams on a multi-purpose street. The saddest part is that the tram reached the alignment of the central section of the Washington Metro, where blue, silver, and orange lines run. But there's no metro station there. If the tram connected with its termini, Union Station, that has many services, and the Red Line metro station, and a different metro station on a different line, right? Then there might have been a lot more usefulness and potential for transfers between these two interchange points. But with the closest metro station from Oklahoma Avenue stop being more than a kilometer away, this is almost useless, right? To show that this was not a great loss for all of us, and to basically give you some hope, I want to quote someone Hayden Clarken, who is also known as the transit guy in Substack. After barely a decade in operation, the DC streetcar has finally reached the end of the line, officially closing this March. Good riddance. As a lifelong transit advocate, it feels counterintuitive to celebrate a system's demise. But we have to be honest. Unhelpful, distracting transit does more damage to our cities than it provides utility. It's time to close the book on performative infrastructure and start building for the rider, not the ribbon cutting. Well, let's hope that the guy called the transit guy knows what he's talking about. You know, I personally might have some predispositions. Things like transit being closed is bad. But maybe it's instrumental to be more open-minded and to take into account opinions of others rather than bare facts. Because in all honesty, urban railways are about decisions made by people, and decisions are about opinions. So let me know what you think. But I do agree that nowadays building new tram lines in mixed traffic is almost certainly a lost cause. It was a way for development a century ago, when we had a lot fewer cars and a lot less organization on our streets in general, and a lot more deaths, unfortunately. So we do have to learn from our mistakes. But I do believe it's a lot more useful to rebuild infrastructure in a better way, rather than to just tear it down. I'm almost certain that the reason the tram wasn't very attractive was because it was slow and unreliable. But I do want to finish on a positive note about Washington D.C. I want to remind you that this city is not, in fact, like a stereotypical United States transit desert, you know? It has a very extensive metro system with 6 lines. But the system is designed with suburbs in mind, which manifests in large gaps between stations. This is to allow the trains to get up to speed, but this also creates gaps in development, because you can't always reach the stations on foot or by bike. This is something being currently worked on with the new Purple Line, a light rail orbital route through Bethesda and other suburbs in Maryland to the north of the city. Similar to something from Helsinki or Copenhagen, a speedier, newer sort of tram which provides a more local but still fast and frequent service. So let's hope next news from this city will be positive. Onwards towards our next Washington State, of course, where major development took place in the city of Seattle and its surroundings. Look at this. This was the state of Seattle's primary urban rail network, Sound Transit's Link Light Rail. Sound Transit being the main operator that runs several different modes of transportation in the area. In April 2024, this eastern alignment was put into service between the towns of Bellevue and Redmond. And on the 28th of March, so last Saturday, the connecting section across Lake Washington was opened to let trains through from these two towns towards the center of Seattle. This is one of those obviously great developments that connects the whole region together and makes many more trips possible. I'm quite happy for this great city, although I haven't been there myself. Some of my relatives have spent a lot of time there. And so I find this extension that was peculiarly built on a floating pontoon bridge particularly pleasing. By the way, besides this fact, fast and frequent service, Seattle also has a monorail from the wishful dreamers of 1962, and also the same sort of streetcars or trams as in Washington D.C. Yes, the same actual models of vehicles and the same sort of development guidelines for two separate disconnected services. Same mixed traffic, same weird slip lanes for cars and so on. But it does seem that here the trams turned out to be more successful, or at least no plans to rip them out are currently on the table. And we shall stay in the Americas for today and go to Brazil, where in the great city of São Paulo we have a new monorail line. Again, exactly like last week. You know my stance on monorails by now. They can be a good service. I just don't see a reason to make it harder to yourself, right? However, I do welcome new fast and frequent transportation, especially if it's still electric, and integrated into the existing network, and quite useful. Line 17, which received the color of gold, connects the train station at Mohumbi to a fork between Washington Lewis, which is our third Washington today, you see, I promised, and Congonhas Airport, which is a smaller, older sort of regional airport closer to the city, together with Kumpujimarche, while the main international hub being Guarulhos, further away. The other two ones have already been connected by fast and frequent rail, by the way. This makes Sao Paulo quite successful in its transportation integration game. It does say that this monorail is now open from the 31st of March. However, it does run a limited service. I don't know what it means precisely. Maybe some of you from the city might tell us. And while you're here, I really like the way you designate your urban rail lines with a single set of numbers and colors in this enormous megalopolis. 1 through 6 are regular metros. From 7 to 13 are speedier suburban trains. 14 doesn't exist yet, but 15 and 17 are monorails. And this is all the news for today. While everyone is currently paying a lot of attention towards the lunar mission of Artemis 2, which is very, very cool, we look closer to the ground, towards other vehicles, our beloved workhorses, our trains and trams. And monorails sometimes. Okay, thank you for your attention.